This is Blenderstyle, the show where we discuss a blend of heavy and extreme music. On this episode, Cult of Lilith, Mara. This album was released in 2020 on Metal Blade Records. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This is my pick. I got onto this album in 2020 when it came out, and it was ended up being my number 2 album of the year for 2020, and I just love the shit out of it, and I wanted to know what you guys think. This is death metal from Iceland. Have you heard of this? This is their debut album. They have an EP before this with like a completely different lineup. So this is kind of like their first full-length album.
Okay, so I didn't know that. So this album is actually with all new members, kind of?
Pretty much. There's like one guy in both this and the EP, but like different vocalists completely.
Oh.
I went and listened to the other the EP. I wasn't familiar with it. And it's a completely different sound. Like, it does not sound like this.
Really? Okay, so that makes it
that
very
makes
interesting.
Yeah, so this is like really their debut, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, because when I saw that they formed in 2015 and they just now put something out other than the EP, one of my notes was, I feel sorry for anybody who got into this band in 2016 and had to wait this long for something to come out.
Yeah, you just been tooled.
Yeah, exactly.
My guess is they put the band together and they just couldn't hold it together. So Homeboy was trying to.
Stuff happens.
Yeah,
a band has to start touring and stuff like that, and like people can't always do that.
But the vocalist, his name's Mario. He was in another band before this, death metal or whatever in Iceland.
I thought you were going to say it was like a Nintendo theme song cover band.
Because his name's Mario. Nintendo Core?
Yeah.
Right.
Here's a remix of the Mario Brothers theme.
So you guys have not heard this before?
I have not.
No.
Okay, cool. So I would call this like Baroque technical death metal. The band themselves refer to it as necro-mechanical Baroque, which is...
Okay.
That makes sense to me.
I don't even know what Baroque is.
Like classical music.
Oh, okay.
Like with the harpsichords.
Yeah,
I think Baroque really is a time period in music. Okay. I did music appreciation class. I should know this.
But you don't.
But I don't. Anytime I hear Baroque, I think of like Tori Amos.
You think of being a kid
again?
You
take one class, man. I mean,
Yeah. So it's kind of got an insane sound to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for me, the highlight is definitely the vocals.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd say the highlight's probably the vocals and the mix of all the classical instruments they throw in there.
Right, there's like harpsichord and organ
and violin and
all kinds of shit.
Cello, I think, at some points. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I can't understate how much vocal onslaught is going on here.
Yeah, this dude has a lot of different vocal styles in it throughout.
So is it just the one guy that's doing all this?
Yes. His name's Mario. I can't pronounce his last name.
Mm-hmm.
He has some playthroughs, like he does Comatose one take on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
And it's pretty impressive, like what he's able to do. He has he does like this growl, but it's very clear sounding.
Yeah.
And he can fucking nail that sound.
At one point, I was like, man, this sounds like Meshuggah.
Yes,
and then I was like, wait a minute, the music doesn't really sound too much like Meshuggah, it's the vocals.
Literally in my notes was like, he sounds like dude in Meshuggah.
Yeah,
exactly.
for sure.
But way more range. Like, he's doing spoken word kind of stuff a little bit, and like psychotic sounding, like screamy bits, and
just some clean stuff, and then some, just
it's
really
all
good.
over the place.
I would say the vocals are definitely a highlight for me as well.
And then going back to like the Baroque, the classical music elements of this, there's like even Spanish music.
Yeah, there's some Spanish flamenco kind of sound.
And they weave it in like really well.
They do, and they do a really good job of it.
So you're listening to it and you're just like, all of a sudden there's like some Spanish vocals. I don't think that's Mario. It could be, but I'm not sure. It sounds like someone else.
Yeah, I think they're even speaking Italian or Spanish.
It might be Italian, or Spanish, something like that. One of the Romance languages. And there's like dude playing flamenco guitar, and you're like, how do we even get here? But it doesn't seem like a weird turn.
Well, and then it busts into like a blast beat with some crazy double bass and like heavy guitars, and then you're like, wait, where were we just at?
I really love how organic the drums sound. They sound like real drums. And I love that about this record.
And the drums match like the guitar playing.
Yeah, they really do. And the tuning on the drums, I don't know if he uses a full set or if it's just like a single tom or something. I didn't see anything in the videos. But
It's like a 5-piece. It's
Is
not
it a 5-piece? Because he gets some crazy tone out of that.
I think the production on this is just
And
excellent.
that might be it, but it's really good, yeah.
Yeah, everything's clear.
Mm-hmm.
Even like when they bring in like the orchestral, like the harpsichord and stuff, everything's like the volume's good.
It gets really rhythmic too. It's like very, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It gets into like
it's more about the rhythm than the melodies at most of the time, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's actually kind of how it works going into the like what is it, the salsa sounding or the or whatever.
Like the more classical sounding bits is like they key it together with the same rhythms and stuff. Yeah, it's interesting how they meld it together like that.
And then they even transition to like some kind of like post-hardcore breakdowns and some really like grindy.
There's lots of breakdowns in this.
Yeah, which is kind of weird because you don't hear a lot of breakdowns in technical death metal.
Right.
But it's kind of taboo nowadays.
It is, but I think they kind of bring it back and make it work really well with it. I mean, the transition between all the different styles they use is really good throughout the whole thing.
And calling this, I would call this technical death metal, but it's kind of not fair to compare it to bands like Inanimate Existence.
It's melodic, technical tech death metal. It's like melodic tech death
but it's not super intricate on the guitars.
No, and I would put it more towards the melodic side than the technical side, but there is some tech in there.
Maybe it's not technical death metal.
Maybe.
It's just...
It definitely gets some emotion across, though. Like, there's emotion that comes through this. It's not like just... So that's why it's hard to be like it's death metal or whatever, you know, because there's like some type of emotion going on. Like it's coming across.
This doesn't sound like shreddy guitar playing to me. You know what I mean? The guitar playing more suits the songwriting.
Yeah, you could almost classify this more not in the death metal category, but more in just the extreme like technical metal or the extreme metal side.
Yeah, it's almost avant-garde.
It is, and it's weird because they probably have more death metal sound to them than a lot of bands who like you said are avant-garde, but
totally.
But they're more in that category, and I think maybe that's just because of where they're from. Iceland, I think, you know, if you're from Iceland, I think you're automatically death metal, even if you're Bjork.
Even if you're Bjork, you're kind of death metal.
Yeah.
I agree. And then also they listen to all different types of music and the instruments and stuff like that. They're more keen to it. Also, it seems like.
Well, they're more.
This doesn't sound American. Like
not at all.
Right when it's even started.
Even though most of it's English, it's not.
Right away, I was like, these guys aren't from America.
Well, that's the thing. Like you said, they're more experimental, and they're willing to put some weird stuff in there and instruments that you wouldn't necessarily consider or traditional, just to get that sound across and to make it something that's going to make people interested in them.
Well, now knowing what Matt kind of dropped on us in the beginning is that these are all kind of new members. And it's kind of like maybe this is them gelling and working out different things, you know? So I'm very interested actually to hear what's next. You know what I mean?
I'm kind of interested to hear what they came from too now.
It doesn't have the same this is like almost experimental in a way.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to kind of listen to, but like there's a lot going, like nothing sounds like this. They also sound kind of like Neoblivicaris or whatever they're called. That band we saw with Cradle of Filth.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? They're like mixing the classical music with that
the traditional kind of
the death metal sounding. Totally. And then the bass player, he's definitely playing with his fingers. Like in one of the videos, he's not using a pick. He's kind of a bigger dude or whatever. And they're all wearing like vests.
Yeah. I think I saw the what was it?
Purple Tide.
Purple Tide.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, the video's kind of whatever, but it works.
Well, no doubt, all these guys are just great. They're good musicians, you know what I mean? Like playing, I'm sure I wouldn't not surprised at all that the guys.
Well, and that's what I like that the bass like really jumps out. Like there's parts where he's like playing octaves higher or whatever, and the bass kind of jumps out. And you can really hear it. Yeah, which you don't hear a lot in.
Yeah, a lot of like death metal, the bass just follows the kick or the.
Yeah, they're just playing like quarter notes or
he
whatever.
Does these little parts where they kind of peek out past your kick and your blast beats and stuff.
But it's not like overdone like some of those death metal bands where the bass player is up front. Yeah, dude. So what'd you like about this, Casey?
So this sounds like a really cool use of classical instruments, like we talked about, the harpsichord, the violin, think there's some cello and some organ in there.
Organ, yeah.
Yeah, there's really good drum work throughout it. On Purple Tide, they have this really cool synth intro where it kind of sounds like Twin Peaks.
Yes.
Yeah, and the video kind of matches it, where the girl fades in from like a supernatural kind of feel to it.
Yeah, definitely.
And it works out really well, and they do that throughout with a lot of different parts on it. And all the songs have like a really good groove, and I think that comes back to the bass, like you were talking about.
Like the rhythm section, for sure.
Yeah.
I really like Mario's vocal performance on this. He is all over the place. His dynamic range is super impressive. Like all the different voices he does. That's
he
what
does have a good range.
It's what keeps bringing me back, and it's like the really clear like death metal like screams that he does.
And that takes practice.
You can
like
tell.
It's not like this guy is like getting it. Like this guy is on the grind to be a great vocalist.
So I got into this album, and then I was like, I got to look into these guys more. Right? They're on Metal Blade, so they got a lot of support from their record label. So there's like playthroughs and stuff like that. You can watch almost a ton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you want to see the bass player play.
I love watching those.
And Mario does Comatose on YouTube, and
there's a lot of different.
He's like holding the mic back really far and doing this like the Meshuggah sound, and
like projecting his voice.
Dude, like you're saying, he's practiced the shit out of this. He's an expert. He's got like tattoos on his face, like Mike Tyson and shit.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Oh really? I think I actually did see a photo. Yeah.
Yeah. So and also like you're saying, the Baroque feeling, the classical music is fucking really nicely done. And it's kind of short, right? This is 36 minutes, 8 songs, so it's like snappy. You can play it real quick, like on a drive somewhere or whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely quick.
Yeah. What about you, Nate? What did you like about this?
One of my biggest likes is the vocals. The vocalist is killing it throughout this, and I think he is changing the music. He is changing the mood. It's not necessarily the music necessarily. I think he is the one that is driving the emotion that's coming across.
Like the psychotic sounds he does, like really makes it unnerving. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I mean, not to take away from the musicianship, but like the drums sound very organic. The leads are good. Not soloing everywhere, but the leads are good.
Right, there's not really even solos, but there's lead guitar parts that kind of jump out.
For sure. There's parts in this that just really jump out at you, and those are the parts where the band is playing together as like a band for me, and I really like that the connection is really happening when they're playing as a band.
They're really tight together, like everyone's on the same page. I feel like
I'd like them to even do that a little bit more. And that's kind of one of my dislikes is when they actually venture off as a band, because as a band I think they're a really good unit and they should do that more. Because when they venture off with the synth stuff and the other orchestral stuff, the salsa stuff, they actually kind of lose me, and nothing really sticks in this. And I hate that it's 36 minutes. Like it doesn't. None of this really sticks out to me. Nothing really grabs onto me except for the vocals and like them as a band. Like when they went synth-wise, it's reminded me of like Stranger Things. Like it's been done. The orchestral stuff, I've heard the same sounding orchestral stuff with other things, Do
you feel like it's tacked on?
Yeah, probably, maybe. Yeah. And not even that, it's just I've heard this.
Like when bands do like saxophone, like that's a trend going on in death metal where they're just like saxophone out of the blue. It's like,
why?
Is he on stage with you?
It's done well, but it's like, do we really just like do these bands come around and they're like, okay, in our next album we have to have a saxophone because such and such band had saxophone, so now we gotta have a saxophone.
I think you're right. I think that's what it's.
Yeah. And I think
I like it though. I really like saxophone and
I do
metal.
too when it's done in originality, and I just didn't see too much originality in those parts. The originality is them as a band, so that was my dislike when they actually ventured off.
Interesting.
Write a few more songs and just give me some of that melodic death metal, man.
Right.
So I kind of disagree with that. I feel like they were at their highest when they were doing their kind of synthesization and all their little like extra flamenco stuff in there and
that's
Spanish
what keeps it
style
interesting for me
and
too.
it kind of keeps it interesting. But I also do agree with you. Like, you don't walk away from this with anything stuck. Nothing stands out on this album. I mean, I think the most that I'll do is after I listen to it a couple times, I'll be kind of humming the intro to Crimson or to Purple Tide in my head. and it's the synth kind of parts that stick out to me, and the classical parts that kind
totally
of stick
agree.
out to me. I don't like that it's 36 minutes. It's too short. I feel like this is such a good album. It needs to be longer. Maybe like 2 more tracks on this would make it perfect. And kind of to touch where you're at earlier, it's the level is like flat the whole way through. Nothing like builds up and breaks like down. Even like when you get to the breakdowns, it's all the same volumes and it's all the same like pacing, and it kind of takes away from it.
I think it's definitely a little too short, and maybe that's why things don't necessarily. Maybe like if I don't know.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like even the hooks, there's no dynamic range in this. It's all pretty standard.
Unless it's vocally done.
Well, yeah, exactly. On the music side. And I think that's just a production issue. I don't think it's necessarily, the band. I think maybe if
that's where my dislike is too. There's no hooks on this. Like the guitar and drums are so tightly in tune. The drums never let the guitar just breathe.
Yeah, and when there is a hook on it, it's so short you don't even notice it.
Yeah, there's no parts where there's like like really cool riffs, like Pantera, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Where Pantera is playing stuff and Vinnie Paul's just laying down like
and they're in the
solid
zone.
beat.
Yeah.
The guitar and drums are always in sync together, and it's like chaos the whole time. It never like sits back and kind of grooves. There's no.
Sometimes you need just that backbeat, bro. Like
right,
you
he's
just need
never
that,
He's a very technical, excellent drummer. But maybe an AC/DC beat here and there might like really let the guitars kind of jump forward.
Or even if the guitar slowed down and gave the drums time to breathe, and then maybe back and forth kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, there needs to be more contrast between the rhythm section and the leads. I agree.
Exactly.
So that's kind of like my dislike.
So I mean, other than that, there wasn't really much that we didn't like about this, right?
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
So what about rating, Nate? What did you give this thing?
I gave it a 2.9. I didn't see a lot of originality, except for with the vocals, but also at the same time, the vocals kind of got annoying as well. I wish that they would come together more as a band. I think I'm looking forward to the next release because I will listen to the next release because I feel that it'll be better.
Yeah.
I think they'll work out all the kinks and stuff, but I didn't walk away with anything remembering on my mind, lasting.
Yeah,
so.
Nothing stuck out.
No. So I would say, it's a 2.9.
Okay, so I gave this a 3.8. I feel like the inclusion of all the classical parts and the extra instruments really added to it. But with you, there's nothing in here that's going to stick out. You're not really going to be humming it. I really like that you could listen to this album multiple times and always find something new on it. It's got so much extra stuff added to it that you could listen to it 10 times and find something different every time.
It's just difficult within 36 minutes.
Exactly. It feels like it's almost too short to get to know it.
Yeah.
The mixture of styles is pretty cool, like we talked about. The kind of mix of death metal and thrash and hardcore and classical. And the blending of it works really well. But for the most part, 3.8. What about you, Matt?
I give this a 4.0 out of 5. I feel like this is a solid death metal album with killer vocals. And I'm like you're saying, Nate, I'm super excited to see where this band goes after this.
For sure.
Because this has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
I like that it's short. It's 36 minutes. They could definitely add 2 songs, but they don't need to. I think it's a really excellent package. I definitely agree with what you guys are saying. Like, the classical stuff is melded really well, but it does seem like they're stepping outside the band. I don't know if that's like a key person in their band, but maybe they could get someone that's just like playing keyboard in their band. I don't know. But yeah,
well, maybe they could do those things, but I'm just saying that I didn't hear a lot. I've heard that orchestral sounding thing in something else.
Like so many bands have done that.
Yeah,
And it's like tacked
like
on.
I said, the synth part sounds like Stranger Things and everything that was coming.
I can't wait to see what this band comes out with next. That's the biggest takeaway from this. This was a great intro, and I think it's going to get better from here.
Tons of potential.
Yeah,
They're young.
100%.
They're young dudes. The vocalist is insane. They all know how to play, and they're from Iceland. What else are they going to do?
Yeah.
This is Blenderstyle. That was Cult of Lilith, Mara.
Put that stick down and hop on over in this blender.